Hello and welcome to another episode of Heart Centered Conversations with me, Jane McDowell from Rewilding Women's Voices. And today I am absolutely delighted and honoured to have my good friend Alison Bowker join me. So, Alison, tell people a bit about yourself.
Okay. Yeah, well, first of all, thank you so much for inviting me. I am also delighted. I am a colour alchemist. My business is called Soul Colour Alchemy, and I guide people on a journey of personal transformation through the lens of colour, through felt experience of colour, to have a deeper journey to meet themselves.
Wow, that sounds amazing. So, if that has piqued your curiosity, viewer, then I will pop Alison's contact details in the show notes and you can get in touch or have a look at her website and explore more. So, I'm going to ask you, Alison, what is the book that you have brought to today's conversation?
Well, perfectly. It is called The Alchemist by Paulo
Ah,
Coelho.
excellent. And tell me, what was it about that book that really sort of lit you up or connected you with a different way of thinking? What was it?
Yeah, it was a huge shift for me. I bought the book in 1996. I've got the date written there in the front, and my original copy with very brown edges and
Wow.
smelling like old books do. 1996, so I was 26. I was doing a lot of soul searching. Well, that's been my lifetime actually, but I was really opening up to esoteric ideas, possibilities, that the world wasn't just governed by logic and rational and my mind,
Who
which
knew?
is what I'd been pretty much brought up with.
Mm,
Um, this opened up, yeah, this strong message of listen to your heart and there you will find your treasure. That is one of the main messages from the book. So it really invited that shift from my head down into my heart and to start
yeah,
listening from there, be guided by that.
that's really powerful, isn't it? Yeah. And so having kind of been exposed to that way of thinking or that way of seeing the world, what then did it sort of take you on a journey? I mean, you said up to that point you'd kind of been thinking that the world was logical and everything fitted in. But what did it incentivize you to do differently or how to be different?
Hmm. Well, I did have a lot of mental questions initially, like, well, how do I listen to my heart? And one of the lines with my original bookmarks in here is the alchemist says, I know I'm an alchemist because I'm an alchemist. Which just sounds so obvious when you've got that knowing, but I was really wanting to make that move into my heart, but I didn't know how to because my heart was very quiet at that point. It was, yes, hibernating. Um, so it led me on a journey through reading more books of this nature. The Celestine Prophecy I'd already read and learnt about the energetic nature of the universe and the
Mm-hmm.
interconnectivity of things and the way, yes, people and energy. It led me to join a meditation group, a Buddhist group.
Wow.
So I sat with my mind and I, for a long, long time, just would fall asleep. I mean, did I fall asleep or was I going somewhere else? I think initially I was very much falling asleep.
Do you think that was your nervous system saying, nope, this is not, nope, just shut down? Or do you think it was that you'd never given yourself an opportunity to actually properly relax?
I think the second one, yeah, my nervous system was just on jammed on go, go, go mode. And so to actually have an hour sitting with nothing to do was a bit of a crisis for my nervous system and for my psyche. It's like, well, who am I if I'm not doing? My identity seemed to be forged around my value coming from how how much I'm able to produce, or yeah, the productivity thing.
Yeah, yeah. And Alison, this book is a work of fiction, isn't it?
It is, and
Yeah.
it's subtitled A Fable About Following Your Dreams. It is a work of fiction, yes.
Yeah, and I love that because, I mean, on this podcast, I talk to a lot of people about self-development books or business books, etc. And I really feel that reading fiction somehow it gives us more knowing than all the knowledge that we soak up in those other kinds of books. Because I feel, and maybe this is just me when I read things, but I kind of live into the world of the book, the characters of the book, and it's almost like stepping into their shoes and experiencing the world through their eyes or their way of thinking. And and I think that gives us much more knowing than somebody sort of preaching almost in a self-help book about, hey, do things this way and avoid doing that. And those are all great things, but I think that too often we soak up that knowledge and then we don't put it into action, and so we don't have the knowing from the knowledge. Does that make sense?
Makes perfect sense, and I'm absolutely with you on that. Yeah, when there's information, it's coming in here, then it's this top-down approach that's
Yeah,
saying change the behaviors. But as you say, they're living through that life of the characters. You get to
yeah,
really inhabit them, and you get to try on different ways of being.
yeah,
And yeah,
absolutely.
it really gets in, and it does change.
Yeah, yeah. So how then, what I'm just really curious to know, what were you doing in your life before you read this book and found out about how to connect with your what your heart wants?
Hmm. At that point, I was still in full-time employment, which lasted another 4 years after that, and then I've been self-employed since then. But I was in full-time employment. I just started a personal pension plan. It's like all the grown-up
Yeah,
things. I'd bought my first flat the year before. I was
yeah.
really enjoying having my own home, my own Zen den. Um, so I was grounded, but I was curious.
And tell me, what sort of work were you doing when you were employed?
At that point, I was working in the travel industry. So I worked
Oh,
for a really
okay.
nice small company. So interestingly, this book is all about travel
Uh,
because the character is a shepherd boy and he starts off in Andalusia and then he follows a dream and he takes the boat to Morocco. I'm just going to say because I can't remember the port.
okay.
And then he journeys to Egypt
Oh,
and then the journey continues. And on the cover, there's this illustration with the spirals, and that's very much part of the story. He goes on this travel, but the spiral brings him home. And I was working in the travel industry, and I am a perpetual eternal traveller. I was born in Uganda. I was born on the equator,
wow.
and now here I am, and I've done many travels in between. So, working in a travel company, I had plenty of experience, but I was also helping create happy memories and dreams, fulfilled dreams for other people to take them on their incredible holidays.
Yeah. And so then you reached a point where you thought, what is my dream? Is that correct?
Yes, I actually reached a point where I got engaged and my fiance was taking a break to go and travel. And then I handed in my notice and we went and traveled together.
Excellent.
Um, I did briefly have an employment again in a travel company after that, but yes, it was the beginning of the end.
Wow. And do you think that the book is what sparked it, or that was just um, it it was an ingredient to what you were making yourself?
I think the book gave me a really different set of glasses, a different lens to look through the world. because another of its key messages for me was the universe is always conspiring in your favor.
Mm.
So that was a huge shift for me because I was living in my head and just the world was always glass half empty for me. I was a bit Eeyore, I was a bit depressed. I wouldn't have called myself depressed, but that pretty much was the reality. So
Mm.
then to be presented with the opposite,
Yeah.
oh, actually, goodness, the world is conspiring in my favor for things to work out well. It's like a huge permission slip to look for the sparkles, the synchronicities, the character in the book when he's traveling through the desert on a camel. It's really interesting because there's a character called the Englishman who has got his 3 crates of books on his camel, and he's going to find the alchemist because he wants to learn about alchemy. Whereas the Spanish boy, the shepherd boy, he's on his camel. He used to have 1 book at a time. Mostly, he did read it, but he also used it as a pillow. But he's just looking around and he's looking for the patterns. He's learning about the world from through his eyes, through his senses, and seeing the wholeness.
Yeah.
Whereas the Englishman has got this narrow focus. He's trying to understand the world through the books. And now I've forgotten why I started telling you that.
Well,
It was.
I think it was really great that you picked up that you were kind of just living in your head, because I think a lot of people do that because that's kind of how we're socially conditioned, isn't it? We the way that society works for most people is that we kind of, get up, go to work, come home, make some dinner, watch TV, go to bed, repeat, and, or maybe do a few things in between, go to the cinema, go out for a meal, go for a drink, whatever. But and because I recognized that I was also in that place once in my life as well, that it was just all about what was going on in my head and not really having that sort of body mind soul connection, that kind of opens up more possibilities to you, that opens up different ways of thinking, that allows you to feel and experience your emotions in different ways, and yeah, and just bring about that kind of self-awareness that helps you to then to mold your life into the dream that you want it to be. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, yeah. So if you're able to, are you able to describe the kind of metamorphosis you went through from living solely in your head to then connecting with your heart and your body and seeing the world in a different way? Or is that just too much of a question?
No, it's a great question. It's really great. And yeah, this book really was a permission slip. Um, so I trusted my knowing and I quit that job. I started the journey to come into my body. I think I'd started doing yoga at 18, and that's been an ongoing, well, off and on path. I started doing Tai Chi and Qigong. Um,
You're really getting connected with the energy fields in your body. Yeah.
yes. And then that led me to learning Reiki,
Hmm.
which again is literally the energy in my body. And then traveling and yeah, back to looking for patterns. Whilst I was traveling, I did a Vipassana retreat in Thailand, and we actually came out of the monastery the day before 9/11.
Oh, wow.
So that was 2001. And went and stayed on a very quiet island, wanting to continue the silence. And
Yeah.
then the next day thought, okay, it's time to reconnect with people, and walked over the mountain to the next beach. And everyone was just glued to the television in shock, having seen that thing that
Yeah.
happened.
Yeah.
Um, Oh, I've gone blank again.
Well, I'm not surprised because if you're thinking about, walking into that kind of energy after you've been in such a serene surrounding,
Mm,
it must have been quite a jolt to your system, I'd imagine. I mean, it was a jolt for people who weren't in that lovely space that you were in, because it did
yes.
feel like the world had changed, didn't it? And
It was
uh,
an
was
incredible shock. And actually, the
yeah,
abbot in his closing talk to us talked about the world is about to change. And it's like, and then it came true.
yeah,
Um, so I left that retreat, and what happened was someone I'd connected with when we finally were able to talk. I'd had the inspiration. I'm ready to learn Reiki. And then this woman I talked to was a Reiki master, and she said, "Oh, just find a group, and I'll teach you." I'm
hmm,
thinking, well, how am I going to find a group? But by magic, by following the signs, I found a group, and I did my Reiki level 1 on
yeah,
Copenhagen. And yeah, just continued following the sparkles. So traveling during that journey, I really got in touch with the asthma that had inhabited my body. I'd had that since age 3.5,
hmm,
since I returned from Uganda to England. And while I was there, I remembered when I was young, people had said, "Oh, you'll grow out of that." And I thought, "Oh, I'm 30 ish. I didn't grow out of it. I wonder why." And I did this massive inquiry going into my body and my psyche, really looking at the emotions, reasons I might have held on to this. And basically, I gave up asthma, which
awesome.
was, yeah, an incredible success and really profound validation of the universe supporting me and me being able to change what seemed like a fixed reality.
Yeah, yeah, and I find that really amazing with health issues, like chronic health issues like that, that so much of it comes from how we think about ourselves or how we perceive ourselves, and it's our body's reaction to certain thoughts or events or people that can bring on those things, but on a subconscious, unconscious level. Do you see what I mean? And then being able to kind of rewire the way you think about those things takes that physical symptom away. It's amazing.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So tell me more about. So obviously you went and did your Reiki training. You've had this amazing transformation in yourself, and you're feeling more connected to your heart and what you want, and following the sparkles, like you said. So how then did you go from there to what you do now, which is just really special, I think.
Yeah. So now working with color alchemy, my previous work was raw chocolate alchemy.
Well,
Basically, I've
yes.
had
I'm
loads
so
of
I'm so
different.
disappointed I didn't know you when you were in your chocolate days, because hello.
Yeah, it was totally magical raw chocolate. I've still got my Facebook page, and there's some beautiful photos. People still keep following the page. I don't really understand, but yeah, it was a really
Chocolate.
special
Chocolate,
time.
Alison. Chocolate will anyone will follow chocolate. Yeah.
Yeah, yes. So from the traveling and working in the travel industry, then I quit that. I became self-employed. I had a company making soft furnishings. Then I learnt web design, and I had a company, a business, worked with a colleague making websites. I trained in Kundalini yoga as a teacher and taught that. I started eating raw food, and the raw chocolate that arrived at the same time on my 40th birthday. So then I started teaching people about how to prepare raw food. Was a co-founder of a community based on in Bath, based on raw food and alternative positive living events. Then at some point, I decided actually I wanted to make some money, and I got into property developing, renovating houses. Um, so I did that for a while. That was hard graft working on site, which I hadn't ever planned to do, but I learnt so much by doing that.
Yeah.
That gave me a lot of confidence to deal with tradesmen now. Um, there's so many pieces. Yeah, and then yes, the raw chocolate business, and then training in the modality, the color modality that I use. It's called Feeling Colors.
And
And
how did you chance upon that modality? Because until I met you, I'd never heard of. I knew of people sort of, you know, working on people's colours with them, or what suits your, skin tones and your hair, but I've never heard of it. Heard of the approach that you have about feeling the colours. So, how did you find out about it?
yeah, a friend who I'd met in Corfu when I went for a very magical festival one year, she talked about there's this German woman who comes to Corfu and she works with colours in a completely different way. And the following year, I went back to Corfu for another festival. My friend had just done a training, and I was one of her first clients. And the session was incredible. I connected with a colour that connected me to source. It was just such an expansive, spacious, timeless experience full of joy and love. And that was through the experience of a colour. And
Ah,
even just bringing that to mind, I'm able to summon that feeling.
yeah, you look like it. Yeah.
Yeah. So by the end of the session, the lady draped me in all my colours, and I'm just crying, looking at myself in the mirror because I'm able to see myself with love for the first time. I'm able to look and love this woman in the mirror. I could see, yeah, really see myself anew. And it just became very clear that this was for me to train in. I'd done so many different trainings already in different healing modalities, in NLP and coaching. And I absolutely loved colour. I'd worked in interior design when I was doing the houses. I'd had my colours done when I was 15, so it's always been a fascination. So there was this knowing, yes, I'm going to do this. And then the next evening, lo and behold, in front of me is this woman, Rita Munsterkotter, who created the system that is called Feeling Colours. And so we
Wow.
had a conversation, we connected, we resonated, and then a few months later, I went to Berlin to do a training one to one with her.
Wow. It's so lovely to hear that you've always had this connection with colour, and you've been on like a huge meandering journey to get there, and that you're now really connected with what you're doing, and you kind of like embody the whole thing. It's really
Mm.
special. So, yeah, thank you for sharing that, Alison, because I'm sure that there are people watching this who are on their own journeys trying to figure out what they want to do in their business and what they want to do for their sort of income and livelihood, and how they want to get to their dream. And so to hear that, the path isn't just a straight, yeah, but it can be like a real odyssey, a real adventure. So yeah, yeah.
Yes.
And partly that's due to you having read that book, The Alchemist.
Yes. And trusting that I will be supported, and if I follow my heart, then I'm going to find my treasure. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was
Oh,
a
I love
really
it.
key book.
Yeah.
Mm.
Oh, Alison, thank you so much. It's been such a lovely, wonderful, heartwarming conversation. And yeah, I could carry on for ages, but hey, there's only so much time that the viewers and the listeners of this podcast have. So thanks everyone for listening or watching, and I'll see you in the next episode. And thank you so much, Alison, for joining me.
Been an absolute delight. Thank you so much, Jane.
Take care. Remember, like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.